It's Wednesday, the 25th of March. From the MEN newsroom, this is Channel M's Lunchtime News, and these are today's headlines. An embarrassing blunder. A school apologises after sending a letter to the grieving parents of a dead girl about her lack of attendance. Mixing religion and politics, the Bishop of Manchester slams the British National Party as he addresses the City Council for the first time.
It would be a disaster for Manchester and the surrounding parts here in the northwest if the BNP got seats.
And 7 people are arrested and a handgun seized after dawn raids in North Manchester.
We've arrested a number of people in relation to serious drug offences, recovered a quantity of drugs which are currently being assessed at the moment, and also a firearm, which obviously an extremely positive result to get any weapon off the streets.
Good afternoon. First this lunchtime, the grieving parents of a teenage girl who died suddenly say they were shocked to get a letter sent from her school demanding she improves her attendance. Megan Gillen was just 15 when she was found dead 2 months ago. Kevin Duffy.
Yes, thanks, Ben. Now, perhaps not surprisingly, nobody from Macclesfield High School wanted to talk on camera this morning. But in summary, the facts are these. We have a pupil, Megan Gillen, who was 15 years old, and Megan sadly died 2 months ago. Now, what appears to have happened in the last few days is that a letter has arrived at Megan's parents' home telling them that Megan's attendance at school was not satisfactory and that it must improve. Now, the background to this is that the school has produced a letter which it's sent to all Year 11 pupils' parents, telling them that if pupils want to be eligible to attend the traditional end-of-year prom, then their attendance has to be 92%, and it informs each parent what their child's attendance actually is. In Megan's case, that figure, predictably, was somewhat lower, 60%, for very obvious reasons, the fact being that she died 2 months ago. Now, the head teacher, Jed Ward, didn't want to speak to me. I've just been to ask, and I've been referred to the town hall. But in the local paper, the Macclesfield Express, Mr. Ward is quoted as apologising very fulsomely to Megan's parents, and his explanation is very simple, that somehow, inexplicably, Megan's details have remained on the school computing system, and when this letter was produced for sending out to parents of all Year 11 pupils, reminding them of the eligibility criteria for attending the school prom, then inevitably a letter was sent out to Megan's parents with 150 other letters with, as we've seen, the predictable and devastating consequences. Back to you.
Thank you, Kevin. A 9-year-old boy is in a critical condition in hospital after being hit by a car in Levenshulme. Police and paramedics were called to Matthews Lane after reports of an accident just before 8 o'clock last night. The boy was taken to Manchester Royal Infirmary with minor injuries, but was transferred to Pendlebury Children's Hospital after his condition deteriorated. Detectives will continue to question 2 men today over the death of an off-road cyclist in Salford. Police made the arrests yesterday after recovering a car thought to have been involved in the accident in which 18-year-old Adam Jarmer died. After hitting Adam on Phoebe Street in Ordsalt, the car failed to stop. At the time, it was being pursued by a patrol car under suspicion of being involved in a previous incident. The police officer who was driving that patrol car has now been suspended from driving duties as part of a routine procedure. The Bishop of Manchester made a speech to the City Council for the first time ever this morning and used it to criticise the British National Party. The Right Reverend Nigel McCulloch said the BNP offers only division, fear and hatred. In a rare move, the council allowed our cameras inside to film the meeting in the council chamber.
For at the very heart of our political process is belief in democratic representation, a belief that values difference and, yes, seeks the common good. The British National Party does neither. It offers only division, fear and hatred. I make no apology for speaking of the British National Party directly. This party has a racial analysis at the very core of its philosophy. It claims that it is not a racist party, but it calls at least for segregation of the races.
Well, that's what the bishop had to say to councillors, and he also spoke to Channel M's James Webster at the town hall.
Well, never before has the council been addressed by a bishop in this way. It's to mark the start of the Hope Not Hate campaign, and we're joined now by the Right Reverend Nigel McCulloch. Just tell us a little bit more about that campaign and the reason you're here today.
Well, the reason I'm here is because I want to join the politicians here, utterly support them in making sure that the city of Manchester is freed from hate, but always full of hope. And our particular concern is that in these difficult economic times, right-wing extremist political parties are likely to try to take advantage, and that would be a disaster for us all. That is why I'm here, to support the politicians in opposing that.
Your speech deals with some very difficult issues in places, doesn't it?
It does, and I have no apology to make for that, precisely because in Germany in the 1930s, the churches failed to speak out against Hitler and the Nazis, and the whole world came to regret that. I'm determined we shouldn't do that here.
And what would you say to people who think that these aren't the sorts of things the church should be getting involved in?
I've no apology to make about that whatsoever. The church is involved in life. These issues are at the very heart of how people live their lives, and I think that's absolutely what the church should be about.
OK, Bishop, thank you very much for joining us, and we'll have much more on the Bishop's speech and reaction to it in our early evening news from 5 o'clock tonight.
James, thank you. Well, we've had a statement from the BNP in response, saying anyone who sticks up for the British is deemed to be a racist. We have a democratic process. It is not right for the church and the bishop to abuse their position. He's interfering in business that is not his. His remit is to promote Christianity. He is bullying, intimidating and blackmailing the people of Manchester. The Edinburgh home of Sir Fred Goodwin, the former boss of the Royal Bank of Scotland, was attacked overnight. We believe windows were smashed and a car was vandalised. Police have been outside the property this morning. The former chief executive of RBS was criticised recently for taking a £700,000 a year pension, despite being blamed for the banking group's troubles. And the HSBC Bank today said 1,200 UK jobs were under threat following a review of the business. The firm employs 58,000 staff in the UK and said the cuts would hit backroom areas such as IT and human resources rather than frontline employees in branches. Internet broadband speeds are set to become 100 times faster in parts of Greater Manchester following a trial scheme that's been launched here to test the next stage of the so-called digital revolution. Beverly Walkden has more.
If we think internet speeds are fast now, wait until the next generation of broadband hits the market. Here in Manchester, we'll be the first to experience it. BT's pilot project to install high-tech fibre optic lines will connect hundreds of businesses and homes, creating the capacity for a virtual city. It's already been tested in Europe and found to be successful.
What benefits is this really going to bring ordinary people in Manchester?
Well, we've seen from other cities in the world, Amsterdam in particular, that have already introduced high bandwidth, high speed broadband, fibre to home, fibre to workplace. It's already creating jobs in those cities, and this would give Manchester an opportunity to have competitive advantage compared to many other locations within the world, but to do so in a way that economic growth that comes from that competitive advantage can be turned into benefit to local residents by making sure that this is something that they have access to rather than being excluded from.
One way it could revolutionise communications is in healthcare. It's thought patients could use video links to get advice rather than going to the hospital or doctor's surgery.
I mean, this means that people could have, just in the next couple of years, real broadcast quality connectivity through their PCs or their digital televisions. And we think this is a reality, but without the infrastructure, it can't happen because the existing infrastructure just can't cope.
But isn't it all a bit lonely in the virtual world?
I'm absolutely convinced that direct human communication will be part of the future of Manchester and part of what promotes growth. What Dave Carter was talking about is where if you're unable to do that, there are other opportunities. It starts giving people choices and makes planning life, planning work a lot simpler.
There's no getting away from the fact that the internet is dominating our shopping and working habits. This next step, though, could revolutionise the way people socialise and interact with one another. Beverly Walkden for Channel M News.
And staying with technology, forget history and geography. It could soon be Twitter and Wikipedia instead for primary school pupils. The former Ofsted chief, Sir Jim Rose, will present recommendations for revamping the primary curriculum next month. His earlier report in December said that primary-age children need a greater understanding of information technology. It's been reported he'll propose that children should be familiar with blogging, podcasts, Wikipedia and Twitter by the time they go to secondary school. And the Home Office is defending plans to require social networking sites to keep details of movements made by their users. Information about who you communicate with could be stored as well. This follows proposals to record details of every phone call, email and internet visit on a central UK database under European laws. The Home Office Minister Vernon Coker admitted the plan would raise fresh concerns about privacy. Meanwhile, privacy campaigners have made a formal complaint about Google's controversial new mapping service. They say members of the public are clearly identifiable on Google Street View and claim that's an invasion of privacy. Here's Nina Warhurst.
Since its launch last Thursday, millions of us have been on Google Street View to have a nosy. It's like a futuristic computer game. Using thousands of photos taken last year, you can look at any street across 25 British towns and cities, taking in millions of homes, cars and people. Now, if you've been on Google Street View, you'll know that all faces and car registrations have been blurred out. But have a look at this. This is the building just off Deansgate where Channel M's based. Now, there are two figures stood by a pillar, and although the faces have been blurred out, they're instantly recognisable to anybody who knows them. And although Street View's only supposed to show photos taken of the streets, if we rotate a few degrees clockwise, we can clearly see right inside the building. It's taken less than a week for the campaign group Privacy International to lodge a formal complaint to the Information Commissioner's Office, the authority set up to protect personal information. They say they've received a number of complaints and that there have been numerous instances of embarrassment and distress and that the promised privacy safeguards don't provide adequate protection. They also say the technology has created substantial threats to a number of individuals and that the extent of intrusion into the homes of some complainants is unlawful. But this campaigner says we can't, nor shouldn't, limit what they do.
We do have a right to a private life. However, when you're in public and somebody's taking a photograph of you in public, then there isn't necessarily what's called in the Data Protection Act an expectation of privacy. If we limit people's ability to take photographs in public places of public things, then there are some serious implications for our civil rights and freedoms.
The Information Commissioner's Office has said it will look into the allegation, but has stressed that Google takes every complaint about privacy seriously and has already removed hundreds of images. Street View may have been controversial, but millions of you have been enjoying checking out potential holiday destinations or even a friend's new extension. And it's your right to enjoy these privileges, which ultimately overrides your right not to be photographed in public. Nina Warhurst, Channel M News.
Right, let's take a look at the sport headlines. Here's Sam Goodman.
Thank you, Ben. And a quick look at last night's League One and 2 results to begin with. And Joe Royle is still searching for his first win as the Oldham manager, following his side's 1-1 draw at Cheltenham. The home side took the lead through Frankie Artis, with Oldham rescuing a point, with virtually the last kick of the game through Danny Whittaker. Bury's League 2 game at Rotherham also ended 1 apiece, Ruben Reid firing Rotherham ahead after 83 minutes and Defi Sodji heading in the equaliser 4 minutes into stoppage time. Well, tonight it's the turn of Rochdale, who will be looking to consolidate their League 2 promotion challenge with victory at Chesterfield. A win will put Dale 3 points behind leaders Brentford and lift them 9 points clear of 8th placed Bradford. Well, staying with football, and former Manchester City favourite Gary Flitcroft has been appointed as manager of Unibond Premier Division side Lee Genesis. Lee are currently rooted to the foot of the table, but the new boss is refusing to accept relegation as a foregone conclusion.
Donna, the secretary at the club, has obviously spoke to me about coming playing down here about 3 months ago. Obviously, I didn't fancy playing. I've not played for about 3 years, so I spoke to my business partner, our financial advisor who's from Lee, and he put it all together, really, a business opportunity to me. You know, I've got a couple of additions for tonight, and you know, I've got a couple of lads that maybe before Thursday. But I showed them around here last night, and they were just so impressed with it. It's you know, the facilities, the LSV have been different class with getting us in here. You know, we're working with the community around here to to get kids in here. Well, it's a challenge, you know. You're 10 points adrift, but we've got winnable games coming up. You know, starting with tonight. So I'll have a chat with the lads tonight, and if we can get a good result tonight, then we've got good home games coming up here. And who knows what happens. you're always going to miss it. I mean, you miss the dressing room, you miss playing. Since I started taking my kids watching Bolton, Man City's and Blackburns this season, I've just started missing a little bit. So it gives me an opportunity to, I'm not full-time in it, but it's a good start for me. And let's see where we go.
Big night of boxing in Altrincham this Saturday. At stake is an IBO welterweight eliminator contest involving a certain Hatton. But it's Matthew, not Ricky, who's stepping into the ring against the experienced Ted Barmy.
Been waiting a long time for a big opportunity like this. It's been quite a slow burning, frustrating career, but this is me big chance on Saturday, and I intend on taking it with both hands. Been in training camp about 10 weeks now, so it can't come round quick enough. I think if you've put the preparation in, you look forward to the night. So I'm certainly looking forward to Saturday.
Macclesfield Town have signed midfielder Colin Daniel on loan from Crewe until the end of the season, while Rochdale are close to completing the loan signing of the experienced Grimsby defender Tom Newey. And Wigan Athletics' Paul Sharner has hinted he may leave the club at the end of the season should the Latics fail to qualify for a European place. And in cricket, Andrew Flintoff will play in Friday's one-day test against the West Indies, having recovered from his recent hip injury. And finally, the biggest derby in Rugby League is fast approaching as Wigan face St Helens 2 weeks tomorrow at the JJB. Already, over 16,000 tickets for the clash have been sold, and the club has urged fans to get hold of their tickets as soon as possible to get the best seats in the house. Well, that's all the sport from me for now. Join me again later this evening for all the latest sports news from our region.
Thanks, Sam. That's with Andy Crane from 5 o'clock tonight. Still ahead on the lunchtime news, 7 people are arrested in dawn raids in North Manchester.
We've arrested a number of people in relation to serious drug offences, recovered a quantity of drugs which are currently being assessed at the moment, and also a firearm, which is obviously an extremely positive result to get any weapon off the streets.
Welcome back to Channel M's Lunchtime News. We're here every day between 12 and 1 with all Greater Manchester's headlines. You can always check out our reports online at channelm.co.uk. On there right now, find out why plans to review homeschooling have upset parents who teach their children at home. And the family of a man murdered 5 years ago this week make a fresh appeal to find his killer. That's all at channelm.co.uk. 7 people have been arrested after drugs and a handgun were found in a series of dawn raids in North Manchester this morning. Officers forced their way into 8 homes in Moston, Newton Heath and Middleton.
Today's been Operation Plainview, which is a culmination of a policing operation which has been going on for a year now. We've had a number of complaints from people about drug dealers, but it's not just the drug dealers, it's the antisocial behaviour that they bring with them. So it's children are playing and you've got open drug dealing on the streets, you've got the intimidation of the drug dealers who strut around their neighbourhoods as if they own the place, and people have been contacting us and we've been all too happy to act on their information and do something positive about it. We've arrested a number of people in relation to serious drug offences, recovered a quantity of drugs which are currently being assessed at the moment, and also a firearm, which is obviously an extremely positive result to get any weapon off the streets. The key for us is for people to have the confidence that, one, if they contact us, if they so wish, we will treat their information in absolute confidence. We've got to reassure people about that, because if we break our side of the bargain, then people won't come to us in the future. So the guarantee is there that if they contact us in confidence, we will deal with that information in confidence, but equally that we'll act upon it. We'll always act upon drugs information.
Health bosses at Bolton Primary Care Trust have announced a series of reforms after a nurse was jailed for performing an intimate sexual health test on a girl back in December. Damien Bible was allowed to carry on working even though staff had raised serious concerns about his behaviour in the past. The review, published today, reveals that staff could be disciplined for negligence by not taking action when the alarm was raised about Bible before the incident. A public inquiry into a controversial multi-million-pound bypass will be scrapped after the Highways Agency withdrew its backing. The decision comes after the regional planning body, 4NW, decided last month that the Mottram Tintwistle bypass was not a priority and shelved the scheme for 7 years. Now, 10 years after the war in the former Yugoslavian state of Kosovo, Manchester is to have its own peace park there. Channel M presenter Jerry McLaughlin is heading to Kosovo today. Before he set off, he spoke to Andy Crane yesterday on Channel M's Early Evening News.
I think a lot of people will remember back in 1999 when all the atrocities happened and the ethnic cleansing happened. A lot of people have seen that on the television, but not many people decided they wanted to do something about it. And a group of people in Manchester decided they'd set up Manchester Aid to Kosovo, a fantastic charity. And straight away they were sending out loads of aid to Kosovo. And that kind of project is kind of kept on going to the point now that they're opening a peace park in Kosovo, trying to rebuild that kind of community. And I think it's amazing that Manchester is part of this rebuilding of a new community. And obviously there's some of the girls, some of the young children were evacuated from Kosovo and they came to Manchester and they've stayed there now. And I know the girls are all at university here at Manchester Uni, at Salford University, so they're kind of going back. And obviously with it being 10 years on, it's time for the park to be dedicated and a kind of a remembrance day.
So that's the event that you'll be covering, isn't it? When you go with the Channel M cameras, you're going for the dedication of the park. Who else is going? Who's going to be there from Kosovo? Who's going to be there from the charity?
Well, it's really interesting. I think it's one of those charities that a lot of people, it's really sort of connected with a lot of people. I know Badly Drawn Boy, sort of the patron of the charity. I think he might be going over as well. I know Guy Garvey, the guys from Elbow, have already given some fantastic artwork from like their front cover of their album and stuff like that. All these guys are involved with it, but obviously the children are going back again to Kosovo. I say children now, but they're in their 20s now, you know, and I think there's a lot of people going over from Manchester, like artists and stuff like that. It's going to be such a crossing over of influences, and obviously Channel M have got to be there to cover it, haven't they?
Well, it's been a blustery and wet morning. It's starting to brighten up a little now, but let's see what the rest of the day has in store with Michelle Eagleton.
Well, unfortunately, it's not been a great day across Greater Manchester. We had an awful lot of rain this morning, caused quite a few problems for drivers on the way to work. And this afternoon, we are going to see quite a few showers as well, along with some really heavy winds. Now, to take you through from this morning at 9 o'clock, and we can take a look at the picture, seeing highs of between 9 and 8 degrees for most of us across the region. Now, it is really, really cold, and it's going to feel cold because of those winds that we had this morning that are continuing this afternoon, unfortunately. So it's going to be very strong, sweeping across from the northwesterly side, as you can see from that picture, and really are going to stay around till about 7, 8 o'clock tonight. But by 8, 9, we should see a different picture altogether. Some really nice bright weather, and also those showers will dry up overnight. Unfortunately, they are on the way back for tomorrow. In fact, Thursday, Friday and Saturday are going to be very rainy indeed. But don't despair, because by Sunday we will see it brighten up a little bit. Cloud and also some sunshine expected.
This is Channel M News. Our top stories this lunchtime. The grieving parents of a teenage girl who died suddenly say they were shocked to get a letter sent from her school demanding she improves her attendance. The letter from Macclesfield High School threatened to ban 15-year-old Megan Gillan from the end-of-year prom. The Bishop of Manchester has made a speech to the City Council for the first time and used it to criticise the British National Party. The Right Reverend Nigel McCulloch said the BNP offers only division, fear and hatred and has racial analysis at the core of its philosophy. 7 people have been arrested after drugs and a handgun were found in a series of dawn raids in North Manchester this morning. Officers forced their way into 8 homes in Moston, Newton Heath and Middleton. Those are today's headlines, and that was the Lunchtime News. We'll have more on all those stories in our early evening news. That's with Andy Crane from 5 o'clock this evening. Join him then if you can. But from me and everyone here on the Lunchtime News, thanks for watching and have a good afternoon.